Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good. Fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts. I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong. I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth. Can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about. Have your f***ing cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round. I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me. A slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Unscripted as we unfold some of the things that have gone on in the sports world, and we talk about a few other things as well. Joined with me is my boy from another mother, babyface Logan Landers. What's up, baby?
What is going on, Jay? It's our last show of the week for Unscripted, that is, because Saturday, hey, we got something special cooking here in a special collaboration event with us, with ASAP, and of course our boy Gonzo with Gonzo Sports Room. 7:30 is what time we're kicking that off? There we go.
There it is, baby. Everything you need to know. Gonzo Sports Room, Unscripted, ASAP. It's gonna
Watch
be a
party.
of all kinds.
Oh, it's gonna be a good show, man. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna be on there for a little bit. And it's going to be a good card, man. The Royal Rumble is always fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I expect a lot of great things. I need to go tomorrow. I'm gonna break it down and look and see more of the cards and things. But yeah, man, I'm excited about it. You know, we had a lot of fun last year when we did Royal Rumble, and I gotta imagine it's just going to be even that much better when we do it this year. I think we're gonna have a lot more people participating. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a good time, my brother. But let's go on and get. We should be joined. Gonzo should be here in a little while, folks. So I'm sure he will pop up here any minute now. But as we get into it, let's do some breaking news. Well, Logan, our boy's back at it again. Conor McGregor.
Oh,
you know,
boy.
it seems like, it's an ongoing thing with him. It seems like every so many months it goes by, McGregor will pop up here and there. Well, he popped up this time. It seems like that leg that he has been rehabbing should be pretty good by now, given all that he has gone through in the last day, Logan. Looks like he went out on his birthday on that beautiful yacht of his, hanging out off the coast of Spain, living his best life, drinking the proper 12, doing what he does, hanging out with his girlfriend, doing the VIP extraordinaire. Well, he comes across a young lady, name is not disclosed, that he realizes he knows from his old school or his old neighborhood out there in Dublin, Ireland, and invites the woman over to the VIP. They hit it off. They're doing their thing. Everybody's enjoying a good old time. And then he takes her back to the yacht with the girlfriend and company in tow. Everything's going great. People are enjoying life. Next morning, as we fast forward, he wakes up, goes into where the woman is sleeping that he has invited onto the yacht, and for whatever reason becomes aggressive with her, hits her in the face, hits her in the stomach, threatens to choke her and throw her and drown her into the water. For whatever reason, she has no idea because it came out of nowhere. She jumps into the ocean, Logan. The girl's in a bikini, jumps into the ocean, hanging out in the water. Red Cross comes by, swoops her up. She goes and talks to police investigators, and to the dismay, says it was not McGregor that hit her initially, that it was a different gentleman altogether. Only to, as she said, quote unquote, I was in shock at the time I was being interviewed. It was not a different man. It was, in fact, Conor McGregor, and now charges have been filed. What a time to be alive, Logan. Honestly, what a time.
Jay, I know that we are a sports show, but God, I hate talking about these topics. And, it feels like we do them way too often. Well, we
It
had
does.
I think what, 2 or 3 cases on the last show, and it's pretty much probably what it feels like once a week, unfortunately. But that's just the world we decide to dive into, and here we are once again. Whether it was Conor McGregor who laid hands on the woman, or if it was another gentleman who did that. Either way, like we say, Jay, you just can't be doing that. I mean, unprovoked. It seems like that you just woke up and then. I mean, Jay, she basically was running for her life, jumping out of a boat. I mean, it's an insane story, and I mean, obviously, I'm sure. I'm sure an investigation's still ongoing with that, but my God, man, McGregor, I don't know if it's him, Jay. I don't know if it's just the people he hangs around, but I don't know, Jay. He's just gotta get away from all this stuff because it gets brought
Oh, yeah.
up way too often with him. I mean, this is like a 6-month basis. It feels like there's always something with him being violent towards somebody. It doesn't matter what gender they are, what race, or anything. But it's brought up way too often for him, man. And I mean, obviously he's a phenomenal UFC fighter. Not that it matters, but you can't be doing this, Jay. He's a grown man. He can't be
Yeah,
doing
and,
this.
and again,
And also too, or if it is another gentleman, who, like I said, we'll figure that out in the meantime. If it was him or if it was someone else, whoever it is, it's just unacceptable regardless.
but I think a lot of times I think it is McGregor. I think McGregor's just McGregor, and sometimes when you put liquid encouragement, and then when you throw your friends into the mix, things go left, things go right, and McGregor is kind of a hothead at times. So it doesn't surprise me that he has fallen into this area because it's not like this hasn't happened with him before and other things. I mean, look what he did with Khabib. Remember Khabib when? And I know that's part of some of that might have been a publicity stunt when he was supposed to fight Khabib, but
Right.
You remember where he was enticing Khabib on the bus. You remember that incident? That was crazy.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't he like throw something at the bus, break a window or something? I remember also. Too I think it was like there was some older gentleman at a bar like last year, I believe. If you remember that one, he got in an altercation with him. So I mean, yeah, it's just Also, thanks a lot for Frankie for breaking some news here, saying Zion was named the starter for the All-Stars this year. Jay, give me a second. I'll find a list for all the starters.
Yeah, I was looking for the list. I had not seen the list. I was told that they were not going to do that until closer to time. But if there's a list,
that's what I thought. That's what I thought, but maybe.
And we're gonna get more into the actual All-Star.
So far, a little in the dark here.
He said there actually is a topic that we're going to talk about when we get to the All-Star break, when we talk about Bam Adebayo and his thought process on the All-Stars and how they're selected and how he feels it should be changed. But we'll get to that in a minute. We'll transition a little bit into the Seattle, looking that they're going to resign Geno Smith, Logan, if you can believe that. I mean, I think we saw that coming, right? That he was, given the year that he just had, that you knew they were going to re-sign him. The question is, how much? He's 32 years old, and it's looking to be somewhere in the neighborhood of around 30 million, I believe it is, to tag him.
Mm-hmm.
But at a bare minimum, if they want to keep him, they're going to, and they don't know what the long-term price is, they're going to have to tag this young man, and it's going to cost them a nice 30 million. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they do get that knocked out prior to. He said, who's not a starter? Ja Morant.
Okay, so I did find on Twitter, Jay, from Shams, so a trusted source. So he released the West All-Stars. I don't see anything about the East yet. So for the West, you have obviously LeBron James, who's your captain. You got Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Zion Williamson. Brother, that is a stacked lineup if I've ever seen one.
And the interesting thing about that, though, but you know what the interesting thing about that is that's just the stars that they picked right now for the All-Star break. They're going back to what they did a year or so ago, where the fans will be 50%. I guess the coaches or writers will be the other 50% on who gets put in there. Or actually, the fans select the starters, the coaches select the reserves. But they're going to go back to where the team captains. They're going to do team captains, and then captains are going to pick their teams based off of the people that get selected.
Yeah, it's an interesting case here, but I'll definitely be on the lookout to see if the East gets, if that gets released here during our show. We'll definitely be breaking it down to you. But once again, thanks to Frankie for bringing that up to us.
Hell yeah. But, back on to Geno real quick. Like I said, Geno had a good year by Geno Smith standards and what he walked into. He had a fairly good year. He 69, almost 70% completions of his passes. I don't know how much more you want out of a new starter than that. And with the 9-8 records, he had a winning record, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. Hell, that's better than what Dak put up, for crying out loud. 42.
It's better than what Russell Wilson put up also.
Jesus, man. Hey, who we kidding, right? Right at around, 4,300 yards. But the interesting thing for me was he was 5th in the league in QBR and 6th in the league on ESPN's QBR mark. So, he's right there in good company. I don't know, man. What do you think, man? What do you think this will do in terms of years and money, if you had to guesstimate?
Yeah. Money-wise, that's a little tough because, contracts go higher and higher each year, right? Also, LeBron and KD. So KD must be on the East. Okay, we'll see that in a minute. He said, "Oh yes, Rob Scott will be at the All-Star game this year. That'll be sweet." Once again, shout out to him for heading that. But back to Geno, Jay. I see maybe like 2 years, 2 or 3 years, nothing too crazy. I think he's earned it, for God's sake. No one thought he would be this good. Everyone just thought he'd be a transitional bridge quarterback. But now he's in contention, Jay, for the comeback player of the year. It's him, Saquon, and I believe Christian McCaffrey as the 3 options for that award. And I do feel bad kind of for Drew Lock, Jay, because he was kind of the big thing in that deal was, you'll get Drew Lock and whoever else that I think Noah Fant and some other guys from Denver. Right. And now Drew Lock might be sitting on the pine for another year or two, because Geno played so well this year. Nobody thought the Seahawks had a chance at even getting close to the playoffs, let alone getting in, right? Right. So I think that this was a phenomenal season all in all for Seattle. We thought they were tearing things down. The Legion of Boom's gone. Their captain, for all these years, Russ is gone. Here comes Geno Smith out of nowhere and leads them to a winning record and getting into the playoffs. So definitely a good year, but I would say maybe Jay, like 2 years. I don't know. Just give me like 2 years, $30 million, right? We'll make it easy, 15 a pop, and just go from there.
I got to be honest with you. I wonder if Geno would accept that, considering the franchise tag is at 30. Do you think he goes for 15?
I don't know because I don't know if he's going to get a better deal anywhere else. Because I think he'll remain loyal. Jay, I do, to Seattle, just because they were a team that gave him a shot. So I think I just kind of threw a number out there, but I think that he maybe would take a little bit less money, for at least this franchise. Now, if somewhere else, I don't know, I can't tell you where, gave more money in maybe another year or two, then I could see him moving on. But I think that he's kind of just he's good with being in Seattle for now. And he'll run it back with him for who knows how many more years.
And again, now that Geno looks like to be obviously the guaranteed star there, that they're going to make the offer to him, does that now kind of make Locke more of a career backup at this point?
Let me see. I think Drew Lock is probably mid-20s, early 20s. I know he's not been in the league for a super long time. Right. Okay, Drew Lock is 26. So, and he hasn't started. He started, I think, not this past season, but the year prior, I think, maybe in Denver. Right. Didn't do the hottest. He might be, Jay. It's not looking too great for him. landing a starting gig somewhere else. I mean, that's the thing, man. If you're a young quarterback, you don't pan out super, early on. I mean, you could turn into like a Baker Mayfield, we'd say, or like even like a Sam Darnold, just guys or Zach Wilson, just guys kind of in recent years who have been benched to be, a backup in some cases for their career. But I mean, it kind of remains to be seen with him if he has the talent to lead a franchise. But right now, I would definitely, and I know you agree with me, I would definitely feel a lot more comfortable with Geno than with Drew Lock at this point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt or question in my mind on that either. Since we're kind of already in the football mode, let's just go ahead and get into the show. That is our first subject matter is NFL news, and obviously, as you know, everybody's looking for head coaches. A lot of teams are looking for starting quarterbacks. So there's a lot of what ifs right now in the league as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. Let's start off with coaches first. We just saw Frank Reich today get elected as the Panthers head coach. I got to be honest with you, Logan. I think this should resonate with you and what went down with the Raiders. Not to knock Josh Allen, but you had a damn good thing going with the existing interim coach. Now, I understand that particular interim coach, I cannot remember his name. Logan, I know you know it. I know
it's hard to pronounce his last name, but let's go with Rich.
Yeah, we're going to go with Rich for namesake purposes. So Rich didn't want to be the head coach. So I understand why the Raiders were put in the position to actually go find a head coach because I don't think he was ready for it. But in this case, when you got Wilkes, who basically took a team that was in total 100% disarray, written off for dead, looking to the next 4 to 5 years to try to figure out what they're going to do. And then in comes Wilkes, takes over for Matt Rule, figures out that, and gets Darnold into play. They get McCaffrey off. They bring up Dante Foreman. A lot of things and a lot of moving pieces went into this. And all of a sudden, they're going from dead last and nobody gives a damn to, borderline playoff contenders and almost win the division in the South.
Yep.
And it just doesn't make sense to me why you would bring in Frank Reich when you've already seen and you're already building chemistry that's showing to be successful.
No, and I mean, I briefly mentioned it to you guys earlier in our group chat that I've been saying, Jay, for since the season ended for sure, that they should have stuck with Wilkes. I mean, just because, Jay, it is very hard to trade your best player and still have a chance of getting into the playoffs, right? Still have a strong end to the season.
Yeah.
Just to kind of throw it all.
It opened up the door for Dante Foreman to,
of course, yes.
But Dante Foreman is no Christian McCaffrey.
No, let's not get that twisted. But, God, it's just, I don't get it, Jay. I think that I've been with just right the hot hand, man. Sign him for a year, right?
Right.
If he can do good interim, sign him for 1 season. See if he can, if it's legit or not, and then give him a contract, or give him a longer contract. If it don't work out, it's a season. You can live with that.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree.
And I wish Chris was here right now so we could get his take on Frank Reich, because obviously that's a team that's, he knows him very well.
Right.
But, there is a connection there. Reich was, I believe, the franchise's first quarterback in the late 90s, back when, they first started out. So I understand it, but I don't know. If it doesn't work out, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it would surprise me more if it did work out off the rip. Just because obviously, when you bring a new head coach in, you're bringing in a whole new staff, right? And
absolutely.
And for players, they might not respond to how good this is. I mean, like you mentioned with the Raiders. I mean, the John Gruden era didn't work. So could we see maybe part 2 for this with Carolina, who's, by the way, Jay, still going to be paying Matt Rule for the next, I believe, 5 seasons. So you got to hit this right. And I'm not a huge fan of this move, but congrats to Frank Reich nonetheless for going back and coaching the Panthers for the next year or two, however long the deal is.
I always love I was laughing a minute ago because I love a good comment, man. And I can appreciate, because Anthony Price, me and him go back and forth with the Cowboys, and he says, "Breaking news: Cowboys and coaching staff is coming back next year." Well, although that is pretty damn funny, actually they got rid of a crap ton of people, or I should say,
just today, right?
And I don't understand this. One or two of them, I think they got rid of the running backs a coach. I'm okay with that. I don't personally think the running backs coach was the issue. Matter of fact, I got to be honest with you. I thought all the coaches they let go weren't the issue. Half of them were on the defensive side of the ball, and I don't even understand that. That's your best asset. Why are you getting rid of those coaches? And you're not getting rid of Kellen freaking Moore. What the hell, Logan?
Jay, that's well, I mean,
you just played the 49ers, and you monster, and you only gave up one touchdown. One touchdown. Had your offense, Dak Prescott been able to convert, had Kellen Moore did a better job developing his offense, the Cowboys could have won that damn game.
And also, too, just to harp on that, also, Jay, that might have been the worst final play call I've ever seen in a ball game. That was atrocious.
Yeah, Anthony Price goes on to say, no, he's talking about the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
That makes more sense because, and I'm okay with everybody, with the exception of Kellen Moore, I'm okay with everybody coming back. It's Kellen Moore that I have the issue with. You know what I'm saying? That's where I think that's where I have an issue with Kellen Moore, and I have an issue with Dak Prescott's developmental decision-making process, which I think needs a lot of work. Yeah. And so I got to be honest with you. It just the Cowboys right now, I love them. They're my team. I ride or die with them. But God, they piss me off with this stupid decision-making. Real quick, segue. I got the rally on in the background, and they put up an interesting percentage right now. The question that they're asking on the rally is, who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now? And would you believe it, Logan? I'm going to read out these percentages, but this is where they're sitting at. Right now, currently, they got Burrow at 28%. They got Allen and Mahomes each tied at 22%. Ooh. Then they got Herbert at 12%. And they got Jalen Hurts at 16%.
Wow. Well, I believe three of the four quarterbacks you listed there are in the MVP conversation, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I know Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts; those three are in there. I don't believe Burrow made. Actually, no, Burrow did make the MVP cut, so you got all four MVPs there, or MVP candidates. And then Herbert, obviously, he's a young stud. He's been very impressive. I mean, Jay, would you agree? I mean, percentages, I don't, that's fine. But I'm not a mathematician. Well, I mean, would you agree that those are probably the top five quarterbacks right now?
Oh, absolutely. And
I would say if in terms of stats, in terms of team success, obviously I know that the Chargers are a little bit on the lower totem pole there. But I mean, just real quick before we can move on. I mean, obviously the Chiefs have been one of the best teams the last 5 seasons. The Bills have been really solid the last, probably 3 years. Obviously, the Bengals made the Super Bowl this past year. They might make it back this year. And then, Jalen Hurts, he really had a good coming out party this year. I know the defense was phenomenal, but also you got to have a good offense to do, and he helped lead that. So, I'm cool with that. Those 5 there being the top 5 in the league. I mean, it's hard to discredit really any of them.
I want to talk real quick on. We're gonna play the matching game. Remember when you were in high school and you had to, or in middle school, and you got those tests, you had to do the matching. We're gonna do the matching game real quick.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give you some coaches and I'm gonna give you some teams, and you tell me where you put them at. Now, clearly, we already know that Reich has already gone to Carolina, so we're gonna take Carolina out of the mix.
Off the board.
Yeah, they are off the board. But then, okay, so you got Chargers, Broncos, Texans. And then we're going to go in Colts. And then the coaches I would give you would be Flores, Peyton, Quinn. Nope, we're going to take Quinn off the board because Quinn's already committed to going back to Dallas, so he's off the board. D'Amico Ryan, Gannon, which is the Eagles' defensive coordinator, and then you have Harbaugh. And if there's somebody else you want to throw in there in the mix, go ahead. That I haven't put on that list, you can throw them in there as well. But the coach, so you got Chargers, Broncos, Texans, and Colts. What are we looking at?
Well, I think,
and you give me yours. I got Flores.
Yeah, we'll go one by one, make it easier. So who you got Flores going?
We'll start off with the. Now again, the Chargers one is only in there because I feel like Staley should be. I think Staley should be gone personally.
I agree.
I'll put that in.
So Jay, where do you have Flores going?
I'll put this in there. Not that it's going to happen, but again, this is matching who you think should be the coach of this team, and not necessarily who is the coach of this team.
Right.
The Chargers would benefit greatly off of a Brian Flores. I think he could do wonders with that offense and that defense. To be honest with I'd like to see what Flores can do with Khalil Mack. To be honest with you, see if he can reinvigorate Khalil Mack. But I got Flores for the Chargers. Who would you like to see go to the Chargers?
I was leaning towards the Chargers, Jay, and I think I will have to rock with that. Just because they have a young team who is on the rise, who, with I think the right coaching, can be a good playoff force. So I would put the Chargers as my number one pick for him. My second, though, I'd go with the Texans just because it's a young team who, sometimes a young team can rally around a coach like that. But I see the Chargers being that pick there for Brian Flores. So who's the next coach you're going to rock with?
Yeah, so let's take the Texans as the next one. I really have a strong feeling that DeMeco Ryan is going to take that job. I think he's going to get offered that job. As a matter of fact, I know he's turned down interviews. After he interviewed with Texans, he actually shut down the rest of his interviews. So I do think DeMeco Ryans goes to Houston. He's got, he played there. He was a player with Houston back in the early days. So I feel like DeMeco would be a good fit there. I think he could go in there and resurrect this team, give them back the fundamental things that they need to do. And I think it's just a good overall homegrown hire. And it also, helps the minority presence in the NFL. Yep. So I think you kind of hit a lot of different things with the hiring of DeMeco Ryan.
Yeah, I like the Ryan pick there. Like you said, he did. He was part of the franchise and whatnot. But what was the guy's name? The Eagles defense coordinator. Gannon. I think that could be a good piece there. So I would put Gannon there just because. I mean, we saw what the Eagles have done with their defense the last 2 years, we'll say. Right. And I mean, the Texans obviously I know that they've sucked recently, but they got a lot of young talent on that defense, Jay, with a lot of potential maybe. So I think if you can bring over a good defensive-minded coach, I think that's a good place to start. So I would rock with Gannon from the Eagles going over to the Texans. But I also see Ryan going over there too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think the next team we'll look at is the Broncos. I really like – this is kind of where I like Gannon. I like Gannon with the Broncos because I feel like he could do something with that defense, number one, get that defense back on point. And then I think, he could also do wonders with helping choosing a better – obviously, they let go of Hackett, so he's going to have to give an offensive coordinator. And I think whoever they bring in as offensive coordinator, he will do his due diligence because he is coming from a winning franchise, so he knows what a winning regime looks like. So I think that – what they've done out there in the Eagles and how they've done it with Sirianni and the Eagles, I think Gannon is ready to go to that next level. And I think the Broncos are looking for that, that next guy that can really resurrect their defense, keep their, and then obviously bring in the right offensive coordinator. So I think Gannon would be really well served with the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos, I'll go with the popular vote here, Jay. Sean Payton has been linked to him for quite a minute now. Just because we've talked on the show, so I won't go into too much detail. But just, what he's able to do with the offense. And for a team, I understand where you're going with the defensive mindset, but I'll go on offense. Bro, this offense for the Broncos was supposed to be high-flying, top 5, and they didn't do nothing, really. They struggled. So give me Sean Payton, someone with experience who can help out this team with a good mix of vets and also young players. See what he can go with there.
And I'm going to give you a one-off.
Okay.
Because the only reason I didn't put Peyton with the Broncos is because I felt like he's been leaning pretty heavily towards, or at least the rumor mill has been leaning heavily towards him going back to the broadcast booth. And so I kind of figured he was out of the equation. But if he does decide to coach at 23, and if he does go to the Broncos, I'm okay with that too. Like you said, for the exact reasons you just said, getting the offense back on point, getting Russell Wilson back on point, would be pivotal. And I think that you're right. I think Sean Payton would absolutely go in there and do that. So if that was the case, then I would probably put Gannon down there with the Colts for the same reasons I have him there with the Broncos to get that difference back on track. He's already going to have a stud running back. All he's got to do is find the right offensive guru to get or find the right quarterback to lead that team. And to top it all off, the Colts get like the number 3 pick in there. So they're going to get a quarterback, and it'll be of his choosing.
Yeah, and I think so. Then my de facto would be D'Amico Ryans would go to the Colts, I believe. Then, which, like I said, I mean, I liked what he's done with the 49ers, right? I think right now in terms of just team success, forget about the playoffs, forget about all that. When you look at how good teams have been, I would have to put the Chiefs and 49ers as like 2 of the top teams, right? In terms of how well they've structured their franchises for years to come. And that's a credit to everyone on those staffs, including D'Amico Ryan. So I would throw him with the Colts there because obviously Jeff Saturday ain't getting nothing done. You got to have some young talent, or I don't know, bro. The Colts are in a tricky situation, Jay, because you have one of your best running backs in the league in Jonathan Taylor. You don't know who your quarterback's going to be. I mean, you're paying Matt Ryan a load of money. I'm sure they're still paying Carson Wentz a sum too. And it's a team with Pittman we're still waiting for him to have a breakout year. I know injuries have kind of hurt that. And then for a defense who's still kind of pretty much trying to find an identity. So I would go with Ryan to the Colts, maybe give him some young influence or something, and just see what he can do there. Anthony Price said if Rodgers goes to the Raiders or Jets, he's winning MVP next year. Jay, what did we say? We need to get like a clipboard like they do on NBA TV and or NBA on TNT. Get like a sticky note collab with just all the hot takes we get here, because that is.
I think we're going to start doing that. Matter of fact, I'm going to implement that starting Tuesday of next week. We are going to put that in there, and we're going to start.
We'll start that in February.
Yeah, we're going to do a running hot takes and see who comes closest to their hot takes being real. Honestly. All right, you ready for the next matchup?
All right.
Now we're going to match up QBs to teams, Logan. And I've only got 4 QBs in here, right? Because I figure the other 2 QBs or 3 QBs most likely would come out of the draft. But
all right, who you got?
So we're only going to look at free agent quarterbacks that are out there that are worth a damn, right? So we know Geno's off the market. He looks like he's going to wind up signing with Seattle. So who does that leave us with? That leaves us with Carr. It leaves us with Brady if he does decide to come back to the NFL and stay another year. It probably is going to give us Rodgers if he decides to renegotiate and if they decide that they want to move on from Rodgers. And then it gives you Lamar Jackson, because I'm not 100% sold that Lamar Jackson stays with Baltimore either. I think he feels a little shunned, and I think he turns it down after that next franchise tag. But we will see what that is. But those are the 4 quarterbacks. Now I'm going to give you the teams that you think, or the teams out there that I think need a quarterback, and you're going to match those 4 quarterbacks with whatever team I give you. The teams are this. You got the Ravens, the Raiders, Green Bay, Jets. Remember, Hackett just got signed on as offensive coordinator with the Jets. Ding, ding. Falcons, Titans, because I'm not sure that Carthon is fully sold on Tannehill. And you got the Texans, Colts, Pitt. I put Pitt in there because I don't know if you really think Hackett or what's that dude's name? Packett.
Kenny Pickett.
There you go, Pickett. I don't know if Pickett's really the real deal. We obviously know Trubisky's not. So I put Pitt in there for the hell of it. And then I got Washington, because Washington's Washington. And then Tampa Bay. I got Tampa Bay. So those are the lists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 teams, 4 quarterbacks.
4 quarterbacks. Okay. All right. You want to do the same thing we did last time? Just go player by player or team by team? Make it easier.
Rodgers, Jackson, go.
All right. So we'll start with Lamar first, right? I'll go with Lamar. I think he stays in Baltimore. I do. Don't get me wrong. I like Tyler Huntley's play. I think he's done well. But I don't know if I'm the Ravens if I want to give up an MVP. And honestly, he had some injuries this year. But I would, if I'm Lamar, if I'm the Ravens organization, I would keep him in the purple and black out there in Baltimore. So I would keep Lamar in Baltimore. What about you?
With Lamar Jackson, I feel as though he's feeling a little disrespect right now with the Ravens. So I think, I do think that he does ultimately wind back with the Ravens. I think they're going to come out, they're going to give him the boatload. But if by chance he spurns them and goes somewhere else, then I think Lamar Jackson will be an excellent fit over there with the Colts. And that's where I put him at with the Colts.
All right. Who's our next quarterback?
Let's take Rodgers as the next one. Who you got Rodgers going to?
Ooh. That's a tough one because I did mention I would like for him to stay in Green Bay. So I think I said it's either Green Bay or bust. And by bust, I mean he's hanging up the cleats. That's a large contract. I don't know who's going to want to take that on for only a year or two. Obviously I know that he's had a falling out with them in recent years. It seems like that's still a weird situation. But I don't think Green Bay lets him go. If so, that would be just wild, right? One of those situations where a guy who's played with the franchise for all these years goes to a new one and gets a whole brand new jersey and number, and it's just a really weird sight for a few seasons. So I think he'll stick around in Green Bay and ultimately retire.
Yeah, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, it's a very interesting dynamic there because I don't think it's entirely up to him. I think it's entirely up to Green Bay, and in terms of if Green Bay wants to move on from him and try to find their next quarterback. Now he has come out and said that he is willing to restructure his contract to make it work. So that would be interesting. If he decides to restructure, then I can see Green Bay keeping him and possibly bringing in, taking whatever money that he, puts off to the left and opens up in the cap room, bringing in the wide receiver one. I think that he's desperately looking for. But even still, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. What if Green Bay just says, no, you know what? I think we're ready to move on from Aaron. We're gonna cut our losses here. We're gonna move on. Then I see him getting traded possibly to one or two spots. I think the Raiders would be one. I'm not the Raiders, excuse me. I think I think the Raiders would be one. I think they could get Carr and maybe he goes to the Raiders and takes over that spot. Or I think maybe they do a Mike White for him or maybe a draft pick with Mike White, whatever, make it work. And then he goes and rejoins with Hackett, which we all know is where he wants to be anyway, with his best friend over there from Green Bay.
That's true. Okay.
Look, if the Jets were able to grab him and the Broncos weren't, how crazy would that be? Jeez.
Whew. All right. What's our next quarterback here?
But before I go back, if that were to happen, if Hackett was to rejoin up and reunite in New York with Green Bay, does Hackett email the owner of Sam Walt or whoever owns the Waltons that own the Broncos? Does he email them a big nanny boo boo? I got him anyway.
I think you have to at that point.
Yeah,
I think you pretty much have to, brother.
I think you got to poke the bear a little bit on that. Okay, next quarterback up for grabs would be the ultimate Tom Brady if he comes back another year. I don't think he's going to go back to Tampa. Matter of fact, I'd be shocked if he went back to Tampa. I do think that this is where Raiders come into play. I think he goes back to his old offensive coordinator. They got the running game. They got the wideouts. They got the defense. And I just think he'd be a natural slide-in fit with that Raiders team.
Yeah, I'm knocking two birds with one stone here, Jay. Like I said Tuesday, just give me a swap. Give me Carr for Brady. Just get those two and some brand new looks, and we can take care of business there. For Brady, I'm kind of the same way. Either he'll stay in Tampa and give it up and retire, or he'll go to Vegas. I don't see him going anywhere else, honestly. And as for Carr, as for another option for him, so I can just get that one out the way too. I could see, honestly, Jay, I could see somewhere like an Indianapolis or a Washington, because we know he's not a big, high-profile guy. He's not, a big marquee person or whatever. He's a low-key type of dude. So I could see him. And honestly, Jay, I think he'd be great in Washington because God knows they need a good public persona there. And that's what Derek Carr is, right? He's a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's a charitable guy. He loves his family. That's what they need in Washington. So I think for Carr, Washington or Indianapolis or Tampa, any of those three. But I'd be cool just a straight trade, Tom Brady and Derek Carr, swap those two out. Because obviously Carr's not sticking around, and Brady Yeah, it looks like he could be coming over. So I'm cool with that trade.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I actually think Washington or Tampa Bay would be good spots. I think if he goes to Tampa, he's got Evans and Godwin, so he's got natural targets to work with. If he goes to Washington, he's got McLaurin, he's got Logan Thomas, and he's got Gibson, and he's got a pretty good defense over there. So I think he'll be successful whichever team he went to, whether it be Washington or Tampa. Honestly, question. Another team I just thought about that I've seen actually even on Facebook several times where a lot of people are talking about is could Lamar Jackson wind up in Atlanta?
Ooh, now that is something I have not heard, Jay.
Yeah, I've seen several posts where they've been trying to link Jackson up with Atlanta.
Interesting. Now that would be a really cool thing, I think, honestly, because we know, in Atlanta that they had back-to-back seasons of same record. They didn't get better, they didn't get worse, and they gave up a lot of their talent in between there also. I think that kind of speaks to how Arthur Smith has been doing, right? He's held the ground. So obviously he had Mariota back in the day with Tennessee. Had him in Atlanta. Obviously he's a little older now. That didn't work out. They benched him and put in Ritter, who he struggled at first, but I think the last 2 games he really kind of came into his own. But I think if you're able to get Lamar Jackson, that would be perfect for that Atlanta offense. The high mobility, the options, how it's a run first type of deal, because Cordell Patterson, he can still get it done. They've got some pretty good running backs with Algier. They do need to beef up their receiving room a little bit, but I would love to see Lamar in Atlanta. That would be a highlight factor, I think.
Oh yeah, I am totally agree with you. It almost be like the second coming of Michael Vick that they had way back.
Honestly, you're not wrong. And Lamar. I think he would do really well with the culture in Atlanta, with the fans. We would love him. And plus, I think he would just fit really well in the city too. That's the thing with Atlanta, man. Atlanta's kind of like a lesser New York in a way, because you get a lot of celebrities at games. You get a lot of people who vouch for you, who love you here in the city with the Hawks, the Braves, wherever you're at. And I think Lamar would fit in very, very well here in Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta is definitely a big hub that's out there, and for the southeast region. So yeah, no doubt about that. I'm going to kind of roll into real quick. We're going to get into 49ers, Eagles, and then we're going to jump from there into the Bengals, Chiefs. We're just going to kind of give I just kind of want you to give keys to the game for whatever, maybe for both sides, and then just tell me who you got winning that particular game. So the first one we'll look at is the 49ers and the Eagles. I think McCaffrey, he's got a calf injury right now, but he does expect to play. But anytime I see McCaffrey and any kind of injury, but expects to play, I kind of tend to lend on the eye of caution, like, oh my God. But then again, they do have that 3-headed monster. So I think when it comes to the 49ers, number one, that defense, that Bosa-led defense has got to come out and do like they did against the Cowboys and play that type of defense against this star-studded Eagles lineup. And then two, I think that they have to use a lot of run game. They got to use a lot of Elijah Mitchell. They got to use a lot of McCaffrey. They got to get McCaffrey in the receiving game as the running game. And they really got to use a lot of mix and match with Debo. They got to do a lot. I think they need to do some reverses with Debo. They got to do some running with Debo. Debo just got to be all over the place. I think Debo is going to be the key X factor to that Niners if they get the win over this Eagles. But again, and don't forget, you obviously got, if you look at the opposite side of the ball, the Eagles really got to get Jalen Hurts going. Jalen Hurts needs to get some runs in there. Miles Sanders needs to get pounding on that 49ers defense, which I think can give up the runs. I've seen them give up some of the runs sometimes. So they really got to get Miles Sanders involved. My only problem is with A.J. Brown. He's kind of showing some diva moments right now. He just came out and said, hey, look, I want the ball. He's making it out. He's making it very apparent that, he wants the ball. So I kind of wonder if that's going to become an issue within that locker room. Will A.J. Brown become an issue in that locker room? Kind of reminiscent back to the T.O. days, if that rings a bell. So that's the only thing that worries me about the Eagles is can they keep the chemistry working? Can they keep Brown happy? Much like Donovan McNabb, I think he did his best to keep Tio happy, and it just wasn't working. Yeah. But again, the thing for me of the 49ers with the Dallas defense was they had a hard time finding the end zone. They only found the end zone once. The rest of the time was on field goals. And I don't know how that's going to go against this Eagles-led team. So I think the key for me is the 49ers got to get the ground game going early. They got to apply that defense hard and heavy. And then I think for the Eagles, they got to make sure that they maintain that leadership in the locker room, that they maintain and keep the divanness off to the side, and then just do what the Eagles do, which is, air it out, run it, and play strong defense. Logan? Oh, yeah, by the way, the 49ers taking that game in the end, though.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, so I picked the Bengals and 49ers since all this, since the playoffs started. So obviously I'm going to rock with the 49ers. But I'll give my keys when we move on to the next game. For the Eagles, I think if you can stuff the run, that's the main key. You got to stop McCaffrey and Debo and force Brock Purdy to beat you. I know he's looked good, but there has been times where he has looked shaky, and that's just due to him being a rookie, right? And so if you're going to have someone beat you, don't let it be the George Kittles, the Debos. Let it be Brock Purdy. Let him beat you. And so, like I said, pretty much stuff the run and see what he can do. And for the 49ers, what they've got to do, right? Obviously, you got to contain that defense. That's going to be tough. But for them, you got to get to Jalen Hurts, right? You got to. We know the Eagles have been well renowned for their offensive line, really for the majority of their franchise's history. But if you can get to Jalen Hurts, give him some pressure, see what he can do with that. Maybe cause a few mistakes, rolling out of the pocket. And get with that. But I think it's going to be a close matchup here. You have a high-powered offense, and I mean, honestly, the Eagles are too. It's just their defense is so impressive. We get on that a lot.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think this is going to be a great battle between these two squads. So, I would give with the 49ers winning this one, maybe even by a field goal, Jay. This is going to be, I think, a knockout game.
Yeah, I had this game not as a blowout. I had this game as very, very close, and I'm right there with you. I think this is another one-possession win by either who gets it. And again, like I said, I'm rolling with the 49ers, so I think it's going to be another one-possession takeaway. I wonder if it's going to be another 19-12 type scenario or what have you. We shall see. But again, now we move into that Bengals and Chiefs. Oh, my God. Hey, I don't know about you, Logan, but the big takeaway for me in this one is Burrow's 3-0 against the Chiefs.
That's true.
He's 3-0. Can he make
That's
it
hard to do
in a pivotally big game? Number one. I think Mahomes play is less than 100% right now. He says he's fine. He has, according to them, he has gone out and played. I question the validity of his injury. They diagnosed it as a high ankle sprain. A typical high ankle sprain on the low end is 4 to 6 weeks. Severe high ankle sprain could be 6 to 8 weeks. And for him to only be out 6 days, and you tell me you're coming back and you're good, I don't know, man. There's some deceptiveness in there somewhere. I see some shadiness somewhere with what they're talking about. But anywho. But he does have that injury. Kelsey versus Chase, I think, is going to be the marquee matchup there. And I got to be honest with you. I think the Chiefs secondary, in my opinion, Logan, is very, very suspect. And when you got a guy like Chase, Higgins, and let me tell you something, a lot of people forget about him. There's that guy named Boyd that always comes up
Tyler Boyd.
Out of nowhere. That guy always comes up with a key play every game he plays in. So, Boyd, I think that triple threat, plus you got the running game of Mixon. I think Mixon will be the X factor in this game. And I tell you, I think that secondary of the Chiefs is going to be what does them in. I think that plus the hindrance, because I'm not completely sold on that Mahomes thing, unless somebody's bullshitting. I feel like the Bengals will take away this game. And again, it's going to be Bengals versus 49ers, in my opinion.
Yeah. So for the Bengals, I mean, for offensive wise, just do what you've done. Obviously, you mentioned Joe Burrow has not lost to the Chiefs before, so obviously you've got that rocking with you. A really talented receiving core, a good running back core also. But the thing that we always bring up with these Bengals, Jay, how's that offensive line going to look? Right? Are they going to be? Are they going? Because it's hit and miss every week. It feels like either give up 5 sacks a ball game or they give up none. So that's a question mark always for the Chiefs, as you mentioned. Mahomes is not going to be 100%, but I'm sure he's still going to have some magic left in him because he just has phenomenal play. So it's hard to absolutely just ground him. You just got to try and neutralize him as much as you can, right? Have him mostly just get pressure on him, Jay, and get him out of the pocket and running and on his feet so he's not just standing back there. Because the more you can have him run around, and potentially, and have some lingering effects on that high ankle sprain, that's going to help your chances of winning.
Yeah.
And also the Chiefs secondary has been a little bit iffy at times. I mean, we know the Bengals like to air it out. So the Chiefs might have to get into a bag of tricks here this week if they want to pull it out. But like I said, I'm with you, brother. I got the Bengals and I got the Niners in the Super Bowl. We'll see how it plays out this weekend.
Amen, brother. What a time it is going to be. Next, we'll kind of look into the good or bad, craziest stat line in the NFL. The one stat line, I tried finding games. I couldn't really find a good game, but I did find a good stat line I thought that was pretty crazy. And that was, I believe it was 2003 when the Texans played the Bengals and running back Rudy Johnson rushed 43 times for 182 yards. 43 times for 184 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the interesting thing about it was I think overall they had like 54, 55 actual rushing attempts. I mean, it was a very, very low passing game. That was when Kitna versus David Carr. So you knew David Carr wasn't going to do jack shit. But they did get the win. The Bengals got the win, 34-27 over the Texans. But what was interesting to me, Logan, was 2 other stats. Outside of Rudy Johnson, 43 for 182 stat, the other 2 stats in that game that were amazing to me was the Bengals' time of possession was at 41 minutes.
Good grief.
And the Texans came in at a whopping 18 minutes and 45 seconds. And the total yardage was 422 for the Bengals to 269 total yardage for the Texans. And that was primarily for the Texans, came via the run and not the pass.
Jesus Christ. All right, so for mine, Jay, I was able to find a game. And also, this is going to be a shameless plug, too. I put this one on our TikTok page, so if you want a full breakdown of it, go follow us there. It's at the bottom. So, Jay, you went kind of a positive route there, but also a little bit crazy, too. I went just complete awfulness here, okay? We're going to take you back in a time machine, folks, back to 1979. We got the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Final score in that one, Rams 24, Seahawks, a big fat goose egg, 0 points. So, Jay, I have the team stats pulled up here for this one. I want you to take a guess. How many first downs did Seattle have in that entire ball game?
Uno.
You're correct. 1 first down in an entire game. They're rushing it.
Did the offensive coordinator even last the whole game, I wonder?
I doubt it because the rushing attack, right? This was their main weapon here. 12 carries for 23 yards. And the passing game was just a block of ice. Who's the quarterback here? Hold on, I got to find who this poor soul was. Jim Zorn, Jay, Jim Zorn.
I don't even know if I've ever really known about Jim Thorne. Do you know anything about Jim Thorne? I've never really. I can tell you one thing about Jim Thorne.
I believe he was a head coach somewhere. Let me pull it up because his name was familiar when I found it. Hold on, Jay.
What was the total yards though of that game, Logan? That was the amazing.
Yeah. Give me 1 second here. All right, so total yardage, Jay, for the Seahawks, -7.
Crazy.
-7.
I think that's the craziest stat of everything that you said. The craziest stat is -7 total yards.
Yeah, so Jim Zorn was the head coach for the he was the head coach for the Redskins in 08 and 09. And then he was with a few other teams also in the late 90s, 2000s. And then the passing games, he went 2 of 17 that ball game for a whopping 25 yards. So if you bought a ticket to that game, I'm sorry. My God. Meanwhile, they gave up 475 yards to the Rams that day. So yeah, it was not pretty to say the least. So yeah, that was my crazy bad stat line in the NFL, maybe of all time, because that's going to be hard to top there. And like you mentioned on Tuesday, we'll do another sport, whether it's baseball or baseball or basketball or something.
Right now, Tuesday going to be the craziest NBA stat line.
Oh, that one I'm sure. That one's going to be something from like the Wilt Chamberlain days, or it's something like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of crazy stats in the NBA. Trust me, that we could talk about. But yeah, we'll do the craziest stat line in the NBA, and that will be Tuesday. So just kind of put that out there for future reference. That will be on Tuesday. As we get into the next topic, though, and this is what's interesting to me: who is the NFL MVP for 2023? Now, I done told you a couple of things, right? I just told you earlier the fan voting right now on the tally had Joe Burrow as number 1 for the MVP. I will tell you that Joe Burrow has beaten the Kansas City Chiefs 3 times. So they've lost to Joe Burrow 3 times. And then, the only thing that you could really put Patrick Mahomes, or at least for this specific season, the only thing that you could put Patrick Mahomes being better than Joe Burrow is if you look at his stat line. And his stat line is Mahomes was at 5,250 on the yardage, where Burrow is at 4,475. They both have the same number of interceptions at 12. And then you got Mahomes at 41 touchdowns to Burrow's 35. Now, here's where it gets interesting to me. Burrow's got an 80% completion rate versus KC. He went 23 of 36 against Buffalo last week at 242, 2 touchdowns, 31 yards. He's got a 12-4 record. Mahomes has a 14-3 record. I don't know, man. If you look at the stats alone, Mahomes gets Burrow, but not by a whole hell of a lot. Only by a little bit. Only by a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Jay. I think Mahomes will get this. Only because, too, he did lose Tyreek Hill. I know you still have Kelsey there, obviously, but he did lose his one of his best receivers, and he did do phenomenal. He said Hurts or Mahomes. I think also the other guys in the conversation who were on the finalists, Justin Jefferson, right, wide receiver, making it. I'm happy for him, and also Josh Allen. Who's done good things in Buffalo. But I would give it to Mahomes just with how well he is this year. My God, he almost threw for 6,000 yards. That's insanity.
That's the thing, though, right? That's the thing for me. Now, Rob Scott, he's basically saying Mahomes or Hurts should be MVP, period. I'm okay with the Mahomes, absolutely, because like I said, that was one of mine. But the Hurts, and I like Hurts. Don't get me wrong. Hurts is an amazing, amazing quarterback.
Right.
But when you look at the stats and when you look at what Burrow has done so far in the league to what Hurts has done in the league, Burrow is just a little bit better, if not a lot more better than Hurts. He just is. I don't know how we're discrediting Hurts, how we're discrediting Burrow. Because that's not the only one that I've heard. I know Rob Scott's the only one that has said Hurts over Burrow. I've seen a couple other people that have said Hurts over Burrow as well. And I just don't. I like Hurts. I do, man. I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this league for a while. But I just think that this is Burrow's time. It's Burrow's time. It's Mahomes' time. And this is the ultimate rivalry right now. Mahomes versus Burrow is no better than Manning versus Brady.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Jay. This is like the modern day equivalent of that, I really do think so, honestly. I would go with Mahomes getting it. If Burrow gets it, I'm not shocked either. Now, if Jalen Hurts does get it, I will be a little surprised, only because, like you said, he's done well this year. I think he deserves to be a finalist, but I think that just the play of Mahomes and Burrow is just a slight step ahead. Could Hurts get it in the next year or two? I mean, Jay. I mean, people were saying if he didn't succeed this year, he might be gone. Let's not forget that in the early beginnings of the season, in the preseason, that people were saying, "Oh, Jalen Hurts better do something this year," and now he's an MVP finalist. So it's kind of like I equate it to Luka Doncic in a way. I love his game, but I don't think he's going to be there quite yet. But I do think we could see Hurts being in the MVP conversations for a few more years, man. I think he's got all the talent in the world to do so.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if you go back and look at, Hurts' stat line, he's way behind on yardage from those two guys, and
Right.
he's also behind on touchdowns, and he does have more interceptions. So again, it's only, he's still a budding guy. He's in the playoffs, but I think he's got a little bit more ways to go to really compete with Mahomes and Burrow. I just think right now those are just the two studs in the league, man. And I mean, and honestly, if you look on TV, if you look at their stat lines and what the other fans are saying as well, a lot of people are on the same line that Burrow right now is getting the top vote. Now, I do think, though, at the end of the day, it's going to be Mahomes walking away with the MVP. But I'm telling you, I promise you, Burrow's time is coming. And I do think that he has the makeup. I'm telling you, Logan, I believe that Joe has the ability to become the best active football player going forward.
And I really, ever since the LSU days, right, I've loved Joe Burrow, his confidence, his swagger, his play on the field. And it seems like nothing ever rattles him, Jay.
No.
I mean, the man gets sacked 60 times a season. And you never know. He, like you said, that's why he gets the nicknames he gets. He's Joe Cool, man. Nothing ever phases that man.
And you know what? And you know who else reminds me of Burrow a little bit in terms of not so much the athleticism, but just the mindset? Is Purdy from the 49ers.
Yeah, you're starting to see that with him.
Even Brock Purdy's own coach, even Kyle Shanahan came out and said, you know what? Nothing rattles Purdy. This guy stays poised all the way through the game, no matter what, up, down, left, right. This dude does not get rattled. And that's where I see similarities between Purdy and Burrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can see similarities.
No, I get you with that. I really do. I see where you're coming from.
Oh, what a time to be alive, man. I can't wait till this actually goes down and we see what's what, man. I'm telling you. Bam. Going back to the All-Star voting real quick. Bam rips the fan voting for the All-Star game. And he did, man. Oh, did he rip the fans, man. He quote-unquote basically said, half these guys don't even deserve to be here. Now, what's interesting to me is I don't know how Bam is already making this accusation when truthfully not all the starters have even been put out yet. So I think that's kind of premature a little bit on his part. But I do understand where he's coming from because the All-Star game is at least the starters are fan-based. And fan-based, goes a lot on popularity. It just does. It goes on popularity. Now, the reserves, that's a coach-driven ballot system there. So I think you get a little bit more fair on the reserve side of it. But I do understand what Bam is saying, where he feels like a lot of it is fan-driven, or it is fan-driven, and he feels like, the right players aren't necessarily getting put into the starting spots. Logan?
No, and I get what he's saying with that, Jay. I do. And I mean, I don't know what it is, Jay. It seems like we get people pissed off at All-Star voting every year.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you fix it? What would we do to fix it? I mean, it's just tough.
Yeah,
because obviously
it's almost on the same equivalency as the Hall of Fame voting.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously you want to get your fans involved, right? That's what grows the game. That's what gets them happy. They want to see their favorite players, but that also means that some guys who are maybe we'll say less popular with the fans or the media, who are great teams, who are great players, they might not get in, and that's a shame. But I think you just got to take this one on the chin and just move on. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, obviously, one person is not going to be able to fix the voting and change it, but I still think that really just All-Star game voting in general has always been kind of wonky for me.
There you
and,
go. 50% fans, at
25
25% media, at 25% coaches. I guess, like you said, it makes up the starters. But the fans really do have an astronomically big say on, who's going to be out there. I mean, and the other, of course, the other part comes from the media, like you said, and the coaches. But you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be issues left, right, up, or down. And, honestly, Bam just may be feeling a little bit jealous that he's not being named a starter, maybe. Who knows? I mean, it could be any number of things, right?
There's
Bam,
a lot
you'll
of
be okay. You're still making astronomical amounts of money. I don't know what
Brother, you're not kidding.
What
we got next, Jay?
Final thoughts, and then we'll go enjoy the rest of our evening. Logan, man, before you get that, Rob Scott chimes in, Bam ain't no starter. I agree. I don't think Bam's a starter, not at the position that he plays. There's too many other guys out there that are just better than Bam at his position. So, yeah, I don't think he's a starter either. A reservist, I give Bam a reserve spot, but yeah, it is what it is, man. Logan, what are your final thoughts, my brother?
Yeah, man. Like I said, good show. Obviously, no unscripted show Saturday in our regular sense, but earlier kickoff time, 7:30. You saw the thing at the beginning there. Us, Gonzo Sports Room, ASAP, collabing on a Royal Rumble live watch along. So that's going to be fun to do Saturday night. I'm excited for that one. It's going to be a good time hanging out with the guys, watching some wrestling, and just enjoying life, man. It's going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited for it. And also, of course, like you said, we got the NFC and AFC championships. Figure out who's going to the Super Bowl. And then, Jay, we get a whole, week and a half, 2 weeks of just pure previews for that. And we are going to do all we can.
Hell to hell, yeah. Rob Scott goes on to say, great show, brothers. Hey, I appreciate that, Rob, man. I can't tell you how much, all of us love and appreciate you and your support. And Mike Hughes, we love Mike Hughes, and we appreciate all that bullshit does to support us, man. I love you guys. We appreciate you, Rob. And Rob says he'll be there too, hopefully. And hey, Rob, man, it's going to be a good time, man. It's going to be one of the few times where I'm going to be looking like a deer in headlights, and you're going to be like the guy that knows everything, kind of like when we talk baseball. It's going to be the reverse effect. So it's all good. But yeah, man, hey, look, you got the Royal Rumble 2023 coming up like we all said on Saturday. We will be doing a watch-along. Party starts at 7:30. Show up starts at 8. So get your little groove on. It's going to be a hell of a good time. And we're just going to have a good time, man. And, yeah, man, I'm excited. Logan, I know you are too, man. So tune in with us at 7:30 Saturday for the Royal Rumble watch-along with Gonzo Sports Room, ASAP, and Unscripted. And please check us out on Twitter at Unscripted Guys, all one word, and on TikTok at Unscripted Sports, all one word, as well as YouTube, followed by the show date, and Facebook. And yeah, that's pretty much where we are. Live TV, Tiki, all that good stuff. Come give us a hoot. We put a lot of good content on Twitter. Frankie does a good job with that, and Logan does a good job with TikTok, keeping us up to date. So check us out. I think it's going to be a good time. And Logan, unless you got anything else,
let's get out of here, brother.
We shall depart. Y'all have a good night, man. Much love.